Welcome to another episode of Founders Club. Today we are out here in Scottsdale getting ready to sit down with Jerry Conti, the founder of Lux Home Pros, and he's going to be taking us through his amazing system of how he operates Airbnb vacation rentals, making $10K per month per property with properties that he does not own.
Let's say the fair market is $5,000 a month for the property, with a single family coming in to rent it on a year-to-year basis. We come in, maybe offer $6,200. They make a little bit more money up front every month. They know that we're using it for the short-term rental. We put it up on Airbnb, VRBO, in our own personal platform, and we go rent the hell out of it, and we bring in 15, 20, 25,
And you keep the upside.
Yeah, of course, 100%.
He's also going to be sharing his entire system, start to finish, on how he finds properties, how he finances them, how he uses option contracts, and everything in between. And he's also going to be talking about everything that you need to know about how to run a successful short-term vacation rental business.
You got to look for the hot attractions. Why are people flying there? What is it that they're there for? Valerie, who's awesome, just a great gal. She's managing 50 Airbnbs, it's pretty impressive, and it's all in the Anaheim Disney area. She knows that the traffic is coming there.
Right.
How many millions of people come to Disneyland?
Oh my God.
It's insane, right?
If you like the show, subscribe. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. Let's get started. So I'm sitting here with Jerry Conti, really excited to have him on, mainly because you're doing some really exciting things in the Airbnb space.
Yeah, we sure are.
And the fact that you can make money on properties that you don't own in the volume that you're doing it is quite amazing.
It's a cool concept. Yeah.
So why don't we start with just like a rundown on how the model works?
The model is typical. We look for properties that are in the luxury level. So typically from 800,000 to about 1.6 million is a sweet spot for us. And we look for homes that are on the market for say 12 or 15 months or longer. And we approach homeowners with the idea of taking that property and cash flowing it through the vacation rental model, using Airbnb, VRBO, and our own platform to be able to drive traffic to it and make sales.
Just to kind of frame that out, from 30,000 feet up, you are finding homes in the luxury market that haven't sold, or having a hard time. They're kind of getting stale on the market.
Right.
Maybe they're overpriced, maybe whatever the reason. And then you're approaching them with an offer of, hey, it looks like you're having trouble selling this.
Sure.
Why don't we cash flow this property instead of selling it? And then they agree to work with you, and then you run it and manage it as a short-term vacation rental.
Correct, yes, but a little bit more, because they really want to sell it.
Yeah.
They can't. So we're saying, look, we can. We could bring an investor in to buy it, but you're gonna get more money for it, you're gonna get your price if we can show cash flow for 12 months. So let's go do that first as a step one, and then at the end of 12 months, we'll go ahead, we'll option the home now at the price you're asking, and at the end of 12 months, we'll bring an investor in. If we do our job right and we can cash flow the property, then we'll bring you an investor to buy it out. And then I'll take with the investor and I'll go lease it back from the investor for 5 or 10 or 15 years and run it as a short-term rental.
Wow.
Yeah, which is a cool concept, because the investor, all they're looking for is a solid cap rate with a real estate-backed asset.
They want mailbox money.
That's what they want, and they want it to be secure, right? They want a secure investment. So we're finding investors that are happy with a 7.25 cap rate.
So back to the 30,000 foot view. So you're finding properties that aren't selling. You're saying, hey, I can help you get this sold, but we need to show 12 months of cash flow.
Typically.
Because once you show the 12 months of cash flow, then you have investors that will come in and buy it once they see the results.
That's correct. And here's the cool part. Investors will come in if they see enough cash flow. They may even come in earlier than 12 months, but typically they want to see the whole cycle.
They want a performing asset.
Yeah, they want a performing asset, and they want to see the whole year. In the vacation rental business, no matter where you are, there's going to be an up and a down market, right? So here in Scottsdale, there's a 9-month market. You got 3 months that it's going to be slow season, so they want to see what the slow returns are, in relationship.
They want the full year picture.
They want the full year picture, exactly.
And then you're helping the sellers sell their house that they can't sell. You're matching up an investor with a cash flowing asset. Then those investors you've already worked a deal with to say, hey, once you buy it, we'll continue to manage it.
That's correct. Well, we just take it over. We just do a triple net lease.
Okay.
You know, so we'll take the lease in, we pay the taxes, we pay the insurance, we take care of the property, period. Like they'd have nothing to do with the property at that point. We run the whole thing. And typically, depending on, you know, the deal that we look at, we're either going to sign a 5-year contract or possibly a 10-year contract on that.
So you're doing longer term leases once the investor buys it.
Correct.
And then when
that's a typical purchase deal. In many cases, we just find rentals where we just do it without the purchase option.
Like a rev share type thing?
Yeah, they just, well, no, not a rev share. We just lease it. We lease it. We give them a little bit more than if you were going to put a single family home or you know, a single family tenant
fair market,
in the home.
Whatever farm.
Yeah, let's say the fair market is $5,000 a month for the property, with a single family coming in to rent it on a year-to-year basis. We come in, maybe offer $6,200. They make a little bit more money up front every month. They know that we're using it for the short-term rental. We put it up on Airbnb, VRBO, in our own personal platform, and we go rent the hell out of it, you know, and we, you know, bring in 15, 20, 25, you know.
And you keep the upside.
Yeah, of course, 100%.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we take all the risk, you know, in that sense of the way on the short-term side.
Right.
They get their rent, and we pay all the bills.
So it's a win-win because the property owner is getting more than fair market rent.
Correct.
And you're winning because you get to keep all the upside, assuming you can make it perform.
And not only that, but not only that, we are taking care of the property, because to get the rents that we need, it has to be a 5-star showpiece. And so we go in there, we paint, we clean it up. We're in there cleaning it, you know, we're turning the property 5 or 6 times a month sometimes, you know, based on the short-term rental. People rent it for 3 days or a week or whatever. And we're in there, we're constantly got eyeballs on it, I got a caretaker on it, I got a handyman on it. So we're fixing things all the time. Whereas when you rent long-term, you don't know what's going on in your house.
Right.
You can't even get into your house. And we let all of our either investors or our homeowners come in at any time they want, as long as it's available and nobody's there. They can come in and check on the property. They can
inspect it.
Yeah.
Stay for a night.
If they want to stay for a night, they can stay for a night. We put it on what we call a flex day. So we allow the owners to come in and stay when it's not rented. But if we get a booking, like a last minute booking, they got to leave at 10 o'clock in the morning. That's it. You know? We get it cleaned and we're ready to go.
Yep. Love that. So why the luxury niche?
You know, I like luxury because of the price per day proposition, right? So our properties typically get $700 to $1,500 a day.
Okay.
That's real money.
Yeah.
Right? I'd rather manage one property and make $60 to anywhere to $100 or even $150,000 in profit on one property than dealing with 6 or 7 smaller properties. It's just more work.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, why do more work when you could just do one?
Right.
You know, to me, it's just common sense.
Okay.
And
so you're
luxury's
focusing...
nice. I love luxury. I've been, you know, my whole life I've been surrounded with beauty. If you ever met my wife, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I love beauty. I love beautiful things, and I want a place that I can stay when it's not rented too. So, you know, or my staff, or my team, or my partners, you know.
Yeah.
And we use our homes for masterminds, you know, our own personal masterminds. So we love it for that purpose. We save money doing that instead of coming into a hotel.
Right.
Yeah.
With a $25,000 food and beverage minimum or whatever. Yeah,
exactly.
So now you're saving a ton of money on that.
100%. We bring a private chef in, costs us a couple grand. We feed 25 people. We're doing one this weekend, you know, at one of our properties. So
Very cool.
It's really exciting. Yeah.
And I love what you said about it's the same amount of work, so you might as well make more money.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, it's a little bit more risky. You know what I mean? Because you're not paying $1,500 a month in rent and trying to make $2,500.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm taking a risk. You know, our lease payments, our highest lease payment right now is $10,500 a month on one of our properties. We typically do about this last year on that particular property. We did $330,000 in revenue.
Wow.
So you think about the numbers, right?
So you're paying $10,500 and you're making about $30,000 a month.
Right. So now you take the expenses, right? So the expenses on that house is roughly about $36,000 a year. Okay. On top of the 10.5, which is what 130, right? So now I'm 160, 170 in the deal, and I made 330.
To double up.
That's a pretty impressive vacation rental.
Yeah,
you
for
know?
something that you don't
I
own.
wish all of them were like
which
that.
Which is the key, right?
Yeah.
The fact that you don't own these properties
No, I don't
and you're
own
able to
it.
make
No,
money.
exactly.
You didn't have to put hundreds of thousands of dollars down. You're basically just...
We structured that lease as a 1-year lease with a 4-year option. So I can actually make sure that it works in the first year and that we can dial it in from a marketing perspective.
Got it.
And then now we're secure. We can, boom, go another year, go another year, go another year, go another year.
Love that.
Yeah,
Love
isn't that cool?
And then how many of these do you have right now?
22.
So you have 22
here
luxury homes.
In the Scottsdale, Phoenix area, we have 22 properties.
And they're all in one market.
Yeah, all right here. Our students, we teach this in our boot camps all over the country,
Mm-hmm.
and our students take our wisdom, our knowledge, our education, our teaching, and they go out and they do that on their own. And they do, anywhere from luxury homes to small homes. We have students now doing apartment buildings.
Love that.
We have students that have 12 homes now. It's pretty amazing.
That's
and so
great.
we love inspiring the whole industry and having people do it in different markets. Personally, for me, I live in California. I have an office here. I have a staff here now because of how many properties we have. And we're helping our students use Scottsdale and Phoenix as like a training center in a way where if they want to get into the business and they want to learn how to do the business, they come out to Scottsdale, we show it to them by putting them into a property as a trial basis, like as an apprentice program.
Love that.
So this way they can learn the business, they can fall a little bit, they can make a few mistakes, during the training process, but then they're going to learn it and then they can scale. They can then get another one and another one and another one, and that's build the business that way.
It is very duplicatable because of the fact that you don't have to come in with a ton of money.
Yes, exactly. Right. Yeah. A typical deal in the luxury space is going to cost you some money. You can't
of course.
expect.
You got to do some fix-ups. Furniture.
We don't do too many like construction things. Like the most construction we do in any of the properties is taking a formal living room and converting that into a bedroom, or taking the garage and converting that into a bedroom. Right. That's typically just because another bedroom is another 30 or 40,000 in revenue per year. Yeah. You see where, and of course, if it doesn't have a hot tub, that's worth about 30 grand a year if you have a hot tub or don't have a hot tub.
Oh, wow.
It's all based on revenue and really understanding how to build out the vacation rental for what people are looking for when they come out and travel.
When they go on vacation,
groups.
right?
Yeah. I mean, we have people come out for, bar mitzvahs, weddings, just regular masterminds, like I said, vacations, just typical vacations. They come out for executive retreats, all kinds of reasons now. It's not just vacation, even where we call it the vacation industry. It's more than that. It's people really coming for special events, and we want to know what that is before they come, because what Lux Home Pro is about and my holding company is about is all about bringing back the charm in the industry, because our industry has gotten very bloated very quick with the platforms such as Airbnb and VRBO and Expedia and all these other platforms. It's exploded, and so that intimate relationship with me and you as a traveler is just broken in so many ways, and we want to restore that. I want to know why you're coming so that I can prepare that place for you and for your experience, because I want you to have the best experience.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
So you're really treating it like a hotel and like...
It's not a hotel. We don't like people to think that they're going to call room service and we're going to be there, you know what I mean? Like, we don't want that.
Right.
But at the same time, we want to make sure if they're coming, if you got foursome golf groups, right? That's very popular out here, right? So it's typical. Most of our homes sleep at least 16 because of that, right? We make sure that we have the right bed configuration to support a group that size, because that's coming out here all the time. That's one of our greatest opportunities, is to make sure that we can serve those types of groups. And so they come out, we want to make sure that they're having fun, and we want to know what they like, and we always have a nice little gift for them when they arrive. We stock the refrigerator a little bit. We make sure that when they walk in, it's that first impression, that wow factor,
I love that.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I love what you said too about really knowing who's coming to stay there.
Yeah.
Because if you do just a few little things to impress them up front 100%. When they get there, like maybe
every time.
Have a couple golf balls, packs of golf balls if you know it's a golf group.
Yeah, if we don't have all our homes have putting greens, because that's what's here.
Nice.
You have to put that. If it doesn't have one, you have to put one in. We actually have a house right now that I have to put one in. I'm ready to contract somebody to put the putting green in. That's going to be worth another $20,000 a year in revenue.
And that just comes back to knowing your customer.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
And really having them come to repeat. So much of our business is repeat business. Somebody has a great experience in your vacation rental, they're going to come back next year.
I love that.
Yeah.
And then, so how are you finding these properties?
Great question. Okay, so we find them we teach how to find them with our students, which is basically taking them through a process of evaluating the area. Like, let's say, for an example, you want to find a property in, say, Lake Tahoe. Okay. So what we teach is go on Airbnb, go on VRBO, and then look at the exact area that you're wanting to play in and see where all the vacation rentals are. The next step to the equation is go look at what they're charging. Go pretend like you're going to book it and take some notes. And then once you zone in an area, you don't want your house to be over here where all the houses are here on the map. In Airbnb, you can just go right there and it will show you all the little icons.
Right.
You push on it, it zooms out.
Yeah.
You don't want your house over here. You want to be right in the middle of the competition.
That's a great tip.
You don't want to be out here because there's no traffic out there. And you'll probably struggle as a vacation rental because you're out in the boonies. Nobody's traveling there. They're all right here for a reason.
And is there any point of oversaturation? Like, is there any number of Airbnbs where you're like, oh no, that's too many, I don't want to play in that market?
Yeah, of course. I think you have to have some reason, but I think it comes out to the price per day and looking at the calendars and how full they are. You could do that you don't need any fancy AirDNA software, even though that's helpful too. And if you want to dial down a market, you can find it exactly through that software platform of what the rents are and what the possibility for your house could be if you're right in that area. There's softwares and companies that provide that data for you to look at. It's never the end all for us. We always verify with our own systems, and the easiest system is go look and see how many calendars are full in the area and what rents they're getting, and do the math.
Yeah.
Make sure the math works, on your property. If you're leasing something for $5,000 a month, and you can make 15 a month, and that's probably a good deal.
Yeah.
But if you think you can only make 10, you may be a little in the risk area on the slow season on that. You may not be able to manage the cash flow for the whole year. You got to look at the high season and the low season.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, it's find a market. As you're researching that market, one of the key factors is the nightly rate.
Yeah.
And to figure out the nightly rate, you're just looking at, let's say, 10 homes in that area, and you can see what they charge and if they're booked or not.
Exactly.
So by doing that simple math, you can get a rough idea of
what is the occupancy rate's going to be, because you have to have that book. Our homes are 80%. We want to book them out 80% here in Scottsdale. That's a goal. It doesn't always happen, but you want to try to strive for that.
Okay.
And so if you look at it and say, okay, at 50% occupancy rate, this is how much I'm going to make. I'm still going to make some money. This could be not a bad deal.
Got it.
Right? But you got to know you got to book it, and you can see what everybody else is doing.
Got it.
And one of the opportunities that we have, because we're really good at marketing, that's why we're part of War Room and Closing Table, right? We're here, simply because of learning and sharpening the saw on the little things that make the biggest difference in marketing, right? A headline, an edited photo, good copy, bed configuration, price automation. There's so many things that people don't realize that could just lift the ad. To the top of Airbnb under that search. So if you put...
So is SEO a thing on Airbnb?
Big time.
It is.
Yeah, backlinks, social media marketing, all the ways of really optimizing the listing, just no different than Amazon.
That's great.
When you have a product on Amazon and you want to get it to the top,
Cool.
There's an algorithm behind every one of these platforms. When you understand the algorithm, you can
work it in your favor.
Work it in your favor.
And so what does that mean? Just include keywords like
keywords
ski in, ski out, or whatever. Going back to the Tahoe example.
Yes, exactly. Especially in relationship to what people are wanting in what market.
Right. Near the lodge, near whatever.
Right, yeah. One of the properties I'm staying at, my property that I'm staying at this week, is right by the Royal Palm Hotel, which is about 3 miles from here. And it's a famous hotel. I mean, they've had multiple presidents that have stayed at this hotel. It was built in the 1920s. The home that we have, the floor, comes right from the Royal Palm Hotel.
Oh, cool.
Literally, the homeowners modeled the home after the hotel because it's so famous.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you would put that in the description,
100%.
near Three Palms Hotel,
Yes.
Whatever.
Exactly.
Okay. That's good tips. Yeah. So going back to how you're finding these deals. So we're in Tahoe, we're looking at the market. What are we doing next?
Yeah, next step is to, I like to visit the area personally, because I want to feel the area, I want to see it. And then of course I'm going to look for opportunities for homes for sale in that area, right? I'm also going to check regulations. I'm going to make sure I know that the area that I'm going in is what I can do, right? Some markets limit you to 30-day rentals. You know, you don't want to be in there. We stay away from gated communities, as an example. We stay away from HOAs. You know,
why is that? Just because it's harder to get in
the
and out
regulations
and
around
check
it. If you're checking in people, how are you going to get them into the gate? And
Right.
It just causes confusion. In many cases, most gated communities are HOA oriented,
Right.
and they don't allow some of the things that we do.
Got it.
So we
Okay.
look for areas. There's just enough areas that allow it,
Okay.
that don't allow it. So
Okay.
don't get all hung up on that. A lot of people
Yeah.
get hung up on that. You know. We have a house actually right now that's in an HOA community. They changed the laws after the fact, right? So we're in a fight with that. You know, we feel like we have the rights. We bought that. You know, the investor bought the house, particularly because it was a vacation rental, and we're running it as a vacation rental. And the community changed their rules after the fact. You know, after it went into title. So, you know, we're winning that.
Okay.
We have rights. We have rights. You know?
Yeah, and I want to get back to that because I have a lot of questions about how you're structuring the agreements and stuff like that. But okay, so you've checked out the area, you like the market, it's Airbnb short-term vacation rental friendly.
Yes.
What's next?
Negotiations.
Okay.
You got to negotiate with the homeowner and put a deal together. I mean,
And are you just searching the MLS for things that have been sitting for over a year?
we
or
have
what?
bird dogs that do
Okay.
that for us on our
Okay.
behalf here in Scottsdale,
Okay.
and they work for our company. So, you know, we're on it. So is our competitors. So we've got to act quickly. You know, so we're first on scene. You know, we have to be. You know, in that situation, somebody that's just looking for a one-off, you know, opportunity in Lake Tahoe, I would recommend visiting the area and then seeing what's for sale and get on there, do some research, pick up the phone, call a short-term rental specialist in that area because there's typically one there in that area.
Yep.
So go ahead and look that person up and see if they can help you or guide you.
What's the rules? What are the
What are the rules? What are the hot spots? They know everything.
Yeah.
You know, they're pretty knowledgeable, so you can get a lot of information and then try to get in front of the homeowner if you could. If you can't and you have to go through the realtor, then tell the realtor what your motives are and explain your proposition on how you can help the person turn this into a vacation rental.
Yep.
There's multiple ways we can do a deal. You know that, right? So there's like
Let's talk about those.
there's like 6 different ways I think you can do a deal. You
Okay.
know? You know, typically if the house is for sale, you can buy the house. Right? That's a
Yeah.
pretty simple one, right?
Yeah, that's step
you buy
one.
the house and
Yeah.
then turn it into a short-term rental, right? The other way is the lease method, which I like. And I like that for any business owner because if you're leasing a property and you have your money on the line, you're going to work that thing so damn hard.
Definitely.
You know, the other option is you can just host it or partner with them, where they own the house, you do the management. You do the hosting of the property. You take care of the property. You take care of the customer relationship coming off of Airbnb or VRBO or any other platform, right? So they're not tied up with customer relationships and organizing all that, making sure that the cleaning crew comes in and out at the right time and turns the beds and cleans the house and all that stuff. A lot of the homeowners just don't want to deal with that. They'll deal with you. You get a rev share. You know, typically 20%. You know, maybe 30% if you're a really good negotiator. You know, on doing that.
And that's doing straight management
that's
for them.
straight hosting. We call it.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's like a third way of doing a deal. You know, depending on what they want to do. You know, if you don't have the cash to buy the property, but they really want to sell it and they're highly motivated in that sense, they may carry the paper.
Okay.
Right? Why not?
Seller finance it.
Yeah, seller finance it. You know, work out a deal that way, right?
Okay.
You know, if
like
the
that.
house is in foreclosure, you can go to the local. You can see if there's any properties in foreclosure that's in these legal areas, and you could potentially do a foreclosure deal. You know, where maybe the guy that's about to go into foreclosure, you can give him some cash, and he can quick deed the house to you, and you can do a quick strategy like that. You know. They don't happen
like
frequently, but they're options.
So just
out
like
there.
real estate investing, it's only limited by your creativity.
Yes, it's exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
That's really what it comes down
And
to.
then what would you say is like your favorite strategy? Like of those 6 that you
I
just
like
mentioned?
the lease personally because it puts fire in my butt, right? To know that I got to get it done. I've done my homework up front. I know it's a good property. I know I'm going to make a decent amount of money on the deal. I'm going to work my ass off to get that listing up and get that thing cash flowing even before I take the property over, right? Because you could do that. You could build out the listing once you have a written agreement with the homeowner, right? You have to have a written agreement, a letter of intent. This is what we're going to do, and we're going to do it on this day. Now you have the right to go ahead and put that listing up. You're not going to book it until you're actually sign the lease and you're in the house, but you can start cash flowing it.
And then what are the terms of the lease?
Well, typically that's all negotiable, but typically what we're looking for is at least a year, right, with an option for 2 more years, right?
Okay.
We like the option fact, because
I like that.
I don't want to take too long of a risk right out the gate because I may have been wrong in my calculation, right?
And if you are, then you can get out after a year. you're
Yes.
saying. Okay.
100%, right?
Got it.
So, the other one is a typical rev share. We call it a hybrid, which is also a favorite of mine, as far as just partnering with them, where you work out a deal where you go more like 50-50 on the property, where you take over the management. We put up the money to convert it to a vacation rental.
Got it.
But because the house could be empty, right? If it has no furniture,
Right.
somebody's going to put the money up for the furniture.
Right.
So we would do that. But then we would go into a higher percentage on return. We go like a
Okay.
50-50 instead of like a 30-70.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then, so generally you're trying to get at least a 1-year lease with an option to
Yeah,
extend
option, yeah.
if it's working out
Yeah.
well. Okay, and then you also mentioned something about an option contract
To buy.
earlier, an option
Yes,
to purchase.
Exactly.
So walk me through that
Yeah,
scenario.
so in the beginning when we were first doing it, it was easy to do it because there wasn't as much competition in this particular market. And so as the competition started coming in, negotiating those contracts up front became a little bit more time sensitive. So if a house comes on the market and it's a decent house, let's say it's in Paradise Valley, I could be on it in 24 hours and have a deal and a check in their hand and a lease
Okay.
signed within 48 hours.
Okay.
It can be that quick, right?
And this is, when you say coming on the market, this is for sale or for
rent.
lease?
For
Okay,
rent.
for lease, got it.
Or if it's, a lot of the houses are for lease within, they really
Got
want
it.
to sell it, but they put it on lease.
So the lease, it comes up for lease, the first day you guys are
I'm
on
on
it,
it.
and then what happens?
So if we like it and we do the numbers, I bring my team in and we evaluate the property in a couple hours to know if it's a decent property and it's going to make money. It's got the right bed configuration. It fits our needs, has all the amenities that we're looking for. Doesn't have a pool. It's, it's got to have a pool.
Yeah.
That's what people want here. If it doesn't have a putting green or a hot tub, we'll put those in because that's not that.
It's not too
Not a
expensive.
big of a deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To put that stuff in, and then we'll furnish the whole house. We'll get it turned, and we'll get all the estimates very quickly. We move very fast, and if we like the numbers in the deal, we'll do the deal.
Okay.
It's a negotiated deal with the homeowner.
And then the option to purchase.
Yeah. So typically,
comes in.
we if they willing to give it to us at their face value of what they want to sell the house for, we'll just put it in the lease.
So even if you feel like it's overpriced,
doesn't matter.
You're not worried about it.
I'm not worried
because
about
as
it
soon as
because
you
the
show
market-
the cash flow,
Yeah.
now all of a sudden it's worth more.
Exactly. That's one reason. But the other reason is because the market always dictates market value. So at the time of that opportunity, we can renegotiate the option. It's like
Right.
let's say you have the option at $950 to buy the house, and a year comes by and the house is worth $900. Maybe the market tipped, right? Why pay $950 if you can get
Right.
it for $900?
Yeah.
You just have to renegotiate it, or I don't exercise my option.
Right. But you want the option because
I love the option.
in
I love
case
the
it
option.
does go up.
Yeah, but if the option is going to get in the way of doing a lease straight away and the homeowner's not willing to negotiate that right away, I don't want to lose the deal to my competitor.
So you'll just move past
I'll
that.
just move past it.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing in recent times, just because of the market conditions.
Got it.
Yeah,
But
I
if it
will
is
always go. We always try for the option.
no, that's great.
It's always part of the proposal.
And so let's say I just want to get this conceptually. So let's say the house is worth like real world value worth $1 million.
Yeah.
And they're asking 1.2 or whatever, so it's not selling. You'll say, okay, we'll give you an option at 1.2.
Yes.
And that's because you know that after you rent it, you can show that extra cash flow.
Yeah.
And you could probably sell it to an investor at 1.2.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Okay.
Now, don't get me wrong. I love.
And if you can't, then you don't
Yeah.
need to exercise the option.
Exactly.
And it is what it is. You can just walk
We'll
away.
typically negotiate it. I think the homeowner, if they see that we've been able to bring an investor to the table, which is their ultimate goal, they'll probably come down in price to make sure that I make some money in the deal.
Right.
Typically, we always tried to make 100, 150 on the flip because that's a great business, right?
Yep.
If I can beat him up and get the house at $1 million and he's asking 1.2, we're in a little bit of it's going to take some time to do that
Right.
dance, right?
Right.
And I don't want to make them feel bad, and I want the lease. That's my primary goal,
Yeah,
is to cash flow
exactly.
the property, right? I don't
Totally.
want to lose the deal to somebody else. So the issue there is really you just got to kind of read it, and if you feel like the option is that negotiation piece is going to delay, then it's not worth it to us because we
skip it.
really want the opportunity to lease it and make the cash flow.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So that's kind of our model. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's the right thing to do for everyone in every situation, because everybody likes to get a great option on a property
course.
that's lower than
Right.
what it's worth,
Right.
right? So we used to do that, but we changed it and just said, look, let's let the market dictate. I can't read what it's going to be like in 12 months. You can't. Nobody
Right.
can. Nobody has a crystal ball. If we did, we'd all be billionaires, you know, in the real estate space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
any other tips for just getting it under contract or?
Yeah, just some really good fundamental tips is that because of the industry itself and the regulations and the fight that's going on. There's fights in every city, major short-term rental vacation type city
Right.
in America. There's fights, the homeowners against the short-term rental homeowners. There's always that battle between hey, I don't want it here, I don't want it there. And
Big time in San Diego.
Yeah,
We're dealing with a lot of that.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
So we add a little disclaimer to all of our leases that in the event that we can't rent that out for 24 hours, that we can exit that lease without any, we can just exit the lease, and it's not a good thing for us.
Say that again. What was the 24-hour part?
Like if I can't rent that house out for at least 24 hours, like one day, like if it changes and the regulation says no, you have to rent this out on a 30-day basis, that kills my short-term rental business.
Right.
I can exit that lease with no repercussion.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you put an escape clause.
An escape clause to
into
get
the
out.
lease.
Yeah, it's not good. I don't want to exercise it. I don't want that to happen.
But it's mainly to protect you.
It's protect us. Yeah.
So if laws change,
Correct.
HOA changes, whatever
Right.
changes, and now they say, nope, sorry, now it's a 30-day minimum.
Yeah.
At that point in time, you can say, all right, well, I
done.
can get out of this lease because I can no longer do 24-hour rentals.
Correct.
Okay.
Short-term rentals. Yeah.
Love that. Okay,
Yeah, that's it.
great
Yeah, we have to
advice.
do that, and it's the right thing to do because I'm going into the deal based on the fact that I can make a 2 or 3x on my money.
Right.
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 I'm taking the risk. I'm putting up the $7,500 a month, the
Yeah.
$3,000 for bills.
Yeah.
Right, and I'm trying to get 20 or 30 out of that every month.
Yeah.
That's within the season.
And how quickly are you able to get these things to cash flow?
Well, I'll give you a recent example. If you
Okay,
want one?
sure.
So we picked up a property just about 3 weeks ago here in Paradise Valley. Beautiful house, $10,000 a month, gorgeous house. Just under 5,000 square feet, 6-bedroom, gorgeous resort style pool. It's got the bar, with the little seats in the pool, and
Nice.
just everything that somebody wants to come out here for. It has the flames on the cave, on the little rock waterfall.
Nice.
It's got the grotto behind it. It's got a little slide for a kid to come down, right? I mean, this house was just so stellar, and the owner was great. He's a doctor, real popular doctor here in Paradise Valley, and I love the house. It was set behind, so you weren't by any neighbors. So if you had, if your guests got a little loud in the
private,
it's private. It's got the mountain views. It's really quite amazing property. So we flipped it in 10 days. Literally, we just refurnished. We had to furnish the whole thing. We converted the garage. We put some money into the property because it was a higher end type property. And we, as soon as we got done in 10 days, that went live. The listing went live, and we booked $60,000 over the next 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. Future
Wow.
bookings. Yeah.
So you cash flowed it right away, first month.
Right away. 10
Because
days.
no matter what, you're on the hook for that 10.5
every month.
every month.
Plus expenses.
Plus expenses.
Yeah.
So your goal is to get it to cash flow immediately.
Right away. Yeah.
Okay, I love
So
that.
we're in the high season, and that was obviously a benefit for
Right.
us because we're in the high season here right now.
Yep.
And you got to be smart as a business owner in this space. You can't just burn through your cash. You know what I mean? You can't just make all this profit during the high season and then go to Vegas, and blow it all, or buy a car or something. Like you can't, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like don't be stupid. Just make sure you can weather the storm for the year. You'll break even, or do even better break even in June, July, and August here if you're smart and you know what you're doing and you have our services. Like we are the bomb in a sense. We're the bomb when it comes to optimization of the listing and the ad. So.
So seasonality obviously plays a big factor.
Seasonality plays a role. Be smart with your money. In any business, right?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is save some of the money from the high season, tuck it away.
Of course,
to
to
get
cover the low season.
Yeah.
But in many cases, you'll break even. You'll do fine. You're not going to lose money. In our opinion, here, we don't want to lose money ever.
Right.
And if you have to take it, a couple months may not be as good as you think it is, and you need to put a little cash into it, you have to put a little cash into it,
Yeah.
Especially when you first get started. For new operators, when they first get started and they started off, there's a lot of learning, and you don't want to make any mistakes,
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the fact that you can get into these deals with not a lot of money down.
Yeah.
So,
It's typically a 50 to, depending on like a bigger house like that, it's more like 75 grand, that you have to invest up front.
Right.
But you're gonna make that back,
and that
especially if you have a long-term
50 to
lease.
75K, that's just for cosmetic improvements, making
furniture.
it look good, furnishing.
Furniture's about 35.
Okay.
Right at the bank. You got your first month, your last month. Sometimes
Okay.
security deposit.
Got it.
So you got 10, 10, 10.
Got
and
it.
then 30 in furniture at 65, and then you got to put your beds in and your sheets and your pillows and your dishware and your cleaning, and you got to put signs up,
Yep.
and it's
Yeah.
a little
But-
little to dial it in.
Exactly, but to flip that on its head, to buy that same house,
Oh, yeah.
you'd probably have to put like
Yeah.
$500,000 down.
Correct.
At least, right?
So on my properties right now, I think my payments are something around like 160. I'm managing $23 million of real estate for about $160,000 a month.
It's amazing.
It's pretty freaking cool.
It's
isn't it?
pretty cool,
I mean,
yeah.
and I get to use these properties when it's not rented.
Right,
Not
that's
that
the
I
other-
want
that's the
to,
other cool
in that
part, right?
sense.
Like-
It's just beneficial, and
Yeah.
I have my friends use it.
Right.
It's cool.
You're approaching these homeowners. Are you generally getting to the owner, or are you generally having to go through a realtor? And I guess
Yeah.
it's probably different if it's leasing or for sale.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, depending on the markets too, really matters. If it's for sale by owner, then
Right.
that's an easy one,
Yeah.
right? But typically, these houses are on the market, and it's the realtor that hasn't been able to sell them for a period of time.
Got
When
it.
we look for the properties, we put our search in the MLS, right? Looking for houses that have been on the market for more than 12 months,
Right.
So they come up, the list comes up, right? So in many times, the realtor, as has a motive.
Yeah.
They want to sell the house.
Yeah.
And they want to make their commission.
Right.
And I get that. You know what I mean? Like, we respect that. So in many cases, we have to explain to them the entire model so that they can take it to the homeowner. We're not looking to circumvent anyone,
Right, of course.
right? And we don't want to cut anybody out of anything. In the event that house sells 12 months, we bring an investor, or they bring an investor, or maybe even the homeowner themselves brings in an investor after we write the new story. We're writing a new story about the property. This property cash flows, it's a short-term rental,
Yep.
it's in a legal zone. We're rewriting the story on the history of this property itself.
Right.
That's a big thing.
That's a great soundbite. I love that.
It's a really big thing. People don't realize how big that is. And so at the end of that story, when that house sells, that realtor gets their commission. It's just delayed a little bit.
Yeah.
If they help us get in, we have a little spiff that we provide them as well.
Right.
So they can earn some money right up front if they can help
that.
us, make the deal happen. We're not greedy. We want everybody to win. It's the only way to do business in life, is that everybody
definitely.
wins.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
And then what about like conversion rates? Like how many properties that you find that you like that could be a good fit for you are you having to talk to before you get one?
Yeah,
under
that's
contract?
a typical question. So when people go through our boot camps, we take them out to show them how to negotiate with the homeowners and how to work with realtors, because we actually do a bus tour. So we give them 5 opportunities to learn it by just doing it with us. Like, we show them. And we also, when we go into the house, we tell them why we don't want to do the deal. The house configuration isn't an open concept, the rooms are too small, they can't fit the double XL beds to make more sleeping arrangements, right? Our business is heads and beds, right? So
Heads and beds, I love that.
Yeah. So, butts and seats on the seminar side and heads and beds on the other side. So that's my life, and the goal there is to show them what is a good house and what is not a good house, so that they don't make those mistakes, right? On making sure that it can fit enough people in there to get the higher rates that you need. So, so typically, our students knock on doors, they talk to realtors. It could be slow for some if they don't have the experience. For those that have real estate experience, that have been used to talking to homeowners, understand they maybe have been a flipper, a wholesaler, they've been in the business somehow as a realtor themselves, it's easier for them. The newbie that comes into the business that's never done a real estate deal, it's a little tougher. I will tell them they're going to knock on a bunch of doors before they do it.
Which is natural. They don't talk
Could be
the talk,
10, it could be
you're right.
15.
Yeah.
Before they get into that open door and they find it. I would recommend anybody that doesn't have that experience, that's learning how to negotiate or find deals, is to go out into those local areas and find a short-term rental specialist to guide you. They're all there. There's always one in a market, you know? So you just got to find that person and see if they can help you get into those doors.
Okay. And then of the ones that you get in, how many are saying yes? Like,
Well,
how many do you have to talk to before you get a yes?
Yeah.
Generally.
Yeah, I would say on the student side, it's probably a 10-to-1.
Okay.
On our side, it's usually 1-to-1.
Wow. Okay.
You know, because it's different for us.
and you've
right?
got it dialed in.
We got it
and,
dialed in.
right.
We have the credibility. We have a portfolio of properties. Once you have that established credibility, which is everything, we provide that extended credibility to our own students.
Sure.
That's our whole reason for the boot camp, is to give you the brand, give you the credibility. You don't even need your credit when you're doing business with us because we have ours.
Nice.
It's a pretty cool deal.
Yeah, that is very cool. And in all reality, I mean, 10-to-1 is still great.
It's
That's
pretty
still
good.
10% close ratio.
You know,
on
the
considering
realtors,
how much money you can make and that you don't have to put all that much money into the deals, like that's
exactly. I'm inspired by the new generation of realtors out there. The old realtors are really just want to sell the house, want to get their commission, but this new generation of realtors that we're seeing right now are open to new opportunities. They're open to creative deals. They're open to understanding that we have a place in the marketplace, and I think that's a really good thing.
Totally.
I have hope and promise, you know, for realtors opening their minds. And
I like that. And I do really like 10% close ratio. That's not intimidating at all, even for a newbie, right?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Really good.
Right.
I'm curious, what's the biggest objection that you hear? Because I'm sure that, like,
oh my God,
people are like, I don't want wear and tear.
Yeah, from who? The homeowner or from the
homeowner?
Realtor?
Exactly. Either
from the
one,
homeowner.
yeah.
Okay, so we'll start with the homeowner.
Okay.
So the homeowner, their biggest objection is obviously, are people going to trash my house? I mean, that's always the one, right? And so we have to calm them down a little bit by explaining our process, how we evaluate, take a client off of Airbnb, how we evaluate that client, how we get their driver's license, how we do a little, basic background check. We match addresses with credit cards. We do all these security checks in the background. We also don't rent to locals. So if somebody in Arizona here in Phoenix wants to rent my house in Phoenix, it's typical that they want to keep their house nice and use mine as a party, right? Okay. So we kind of read through the lines, and we are so good at it because we've done it so many times, so many bookings, thousands of bookings, right? So when you do that, you can see patterns of issues, You can never predict it 100%. But we also, really reassure the homeowner in the sense that we have cameras on the front of the house. We always have cameras pointing at the garbage cans to make sure that the garbage cans were taken out. It's one of the biggest complaints with neighbors in our industry is that they didn't take their fucking garbage out. Sorry, I cursed.
Yeah, no, that's funny because that's like such a random one,
It's such a random one, right? You wouldn't think that was a big objection, but it's the garbage that causes a lot of the problems. Of course, noise is always an issue for neighbors. They don't want large parties out all night. And so typically we put noise aware systems in, right? It's an industry tool that you could put in areas where you think the people are going to hang out. And it's an app on your phone, and if the decimal volume of that area gets to a certain line, it triggers the host on the phone, letting them know, hey, the noise is getting a little loud in that house over there. We pick up the phone, call them straight away and say, lower the volume before the cops are called, by the neighbors, right? So we have those controls, and we always have a handyman and a caretaker, close by to the property, within 10 miles. And so they can go over there right away and just calm things down.
So if a toilet gets clogged or whatever.
Anything, or any maintenance issue. So we reassure them about maintenance, about security, about making sure that their home is well taken care of. We also put an insurance damage waiver insurance policy on every property ourselves.
Nice.
We never bother the homeowner with small little fixes, like anything under $700. We never go to them for those types of things. And then we insure everything else. So
I like that tip, though. That's a good tip. They never go to the homeowner for anything less than $700.
Yeah, we don't.
Because if it's like, are
you kidding me?
Like, they're not trying to deal with that.
No,
so
they want out of that. They don't want anything to do with that.
Right.
You put a long-term tenant in there. I actually rent my own personal home on a long-term basis, and I never call the owners for anything unless it's major.
Right.
I had one time I called them where a pipe broke up in a bathroom and it flooded my whole ceiling downstairs. I called them for that, but that's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, why bother them, right?
Yeah.
What do you
Because
want
I'm imagining the more you're bothering them, the more they don't want to deal with you.
Or they want to raise your rent.
Right, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. And I want to go back to what you just said about the noise system.
Noise aware.
Because that's brilliant. Because
Yeah.
I feel like one of the biggest things that hurt Airbnb short-term rental types is the party factor,
party
right?
thing, yeah.
You piss off the neighbors.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden everyone's upset.
Sure.
And it sounds like you've come up with a cool way to
we
mitigate
did.
that.
Yes, and we have house rules.
Okay.
And there's a no party policy.
Okay.
And if they're going to do a party like a wedding or a bar mitzvah or a bachelor party, they need to get a permit, and we need to have somebody on staff, right, just to make sure that things don't get out of hand.
So you do allow it under certain conditions.
Yes, under certain conditions, but we show that and we're transparent to the homeowner to let them know how we're mitigating these risks, you know.
And then the noise aware system. So let's just say like the backyard, right? People are in the backyard.
Hey, put a little device on the fence, and like around the area where they're going to be hanging out, and if you set the decimal, and if it jumps,
and then that way, if they start getting loud, you get notified on your app, and you can be proactive about calling them
right away.
And what are you saying? Like, hey,
chill.
Okay.
I know you guys are getting too loud over there. The neighbors are going to have a problem.
Are you telling them how you know that?
Yeah, 100%.
So you say, hey, we have a noise awareness system.
We know
I'm getting alerts.
We're getting alerts, man. You guys are just too loud. Lower the volume. Kill the radio. Do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's great because now
there's security deposits
combating against one of the biggest problems and complaints,
100%.
which is parties and noise.
Parties and noise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And garbage.
And garbage, yeah. Trash can cameras.
You wouldn't think that, right?
No,
but that's the big deal.
Never. Yeah. That's great. Love that. Those are some great tips. So let's talk about what makes a property the right property.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So again, I think any property is the right property that makes money.
Okay. I like that.
Personally,
that's pretty straightforward.
I had to, when I first got into the business, I was my partner who was doing this prior to me doing it, I realized that I was emotional when I went into a property. Oh, I love this place. This is me.
Right.
This is my wife. Oh my God, we're gonna have so much fun here.
Yeah.
You're done. You're gonna lose money every time,
Okay.
right? You can't have that attitude. It's hard. I promise you, for those who are listening to this or watching this, it's hard. It's hard to go into a property and not happen to be your favorite property, but look at it from an economic standpoint. Can it make money?
So no emotions.
No
it's all about the
emotion. No
numbers.
emotion. Make sure it's got the right bed configuration. Make sure it's got the open concept kitchen, which people want. Make sure it's got enough spots for gaming and various things. We convert.
Hanging out.
Yeah,
chilling.
we convert the garages into game rooms and stuff.
Nice.
And yeah, you want to make sure it's really dialed in. It's got a nice pool, a nice sitting area. You're looking for those things, right? You're looking for how many beds you can get in that house.
So
It's
back to beds for a second,
Yeah.
because one thing I've heard you say a couple times now is the right bed configuration.
Yeah, bed configuration.
So what do you
critical.
consider to be the right bed configuration?
Yeah, great question. So let's say it's a 6-bedroom, okay? So if I go ahead and put 6 kings in that room, right? I can only sleep 12 people, right?
Right.
6 couples.
So yeah, couples too.
6
yeah,
couples,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Men don't sleep together
Right.
typically, especially golfers, right? So,
totally.
so what we do is we want to make sure that we could configure that in a way where it's not 6 kings, it's 12 singles that match up to a king. So we can configure it by putting the beds together or separating it. Now I can have 12 people in it, and I can optimize revenues by having larger groups.
Got it.
that
So you're
simple.
asking them before they get there to figure out whether you need to push the beds
It's all
together
done
or
through
separate
our
them?
proprietary software. It's all done through our
right.
rental manager software,
Got it.
which is really great, where they request it through the online booking side of the equation,
Okay.
and then our cleaning crew configures the beds.
Got it.
Right while they're cleaning the sheets and,
It's a great
and turning
tip.
the thing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really
That's
good.
great.
Very important too.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's
most people
huge.
don't do it. Most people won't get rid of their king or their queen and split it and buy 2 beds and take that one out and sell it and so forth. Most people just won't do it because it's just too much work for them, but they're losing so much money.
Makes sense.
Losing so much money.
Great tip, man.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really good. And then in terms of like the amount of work that you're doing up front, so you kind of mentioned like the putting green and the hot
Yeah.
tub. Like, How much work are you typically anticipating, and what is like the threshold to where you're like, nah, it's not worth it?
Yeah, it's a good question. Typically you can get a putting green for around $5,000.
Okay.
You're going to get a jacuzzi or a hot tub.
Probably about the same.
Well, if you get it new, right?
Okay.
We like to buy used on those types as long as it's in good shape. We know how to check them out.
We call those previously enjoyed.
Yeah, I like that actually. That's really good. Yeah, and that's typically around $2,000.
Okay.
So,
okay, great.
So it's not that expensive, right?
Okay.
We're definitely going to have a pool table. We're definitely going to have a ping pong table. Sometimes hockey, sometimes golf stuff. Depending on what you're doing. So depending on the house is what really kind of how you figure what you want to spend on it based on the rents you're trying to get, right? But we never try to overstock the home on things that don't make us money. We want to configure the house that drives revenues.
Okay.
Hot tubs and putting greens drive revenues.
And I love what you said about turning the garage into a game room.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Which is really cool. And we could do that for very inexpensive.
Right.
Believe me, you can buy everything on Craigslist. You can buy everything used. You don't need to
throw
have
down
new
some
stuff.
carpet.
Yeah,
good to go.
throw down some carpet. You put some garage signs, man cave stuff up. It's fun.
That's
put a refrigerator in there.
So maybe a TV or something.
Yeah, TV, always a TV
That's
in there.
Great.
Yeah.
That's really good.
You keep them smoking in there and
what about
doing their thing there.
on as far as the work goes in terms of like, are you doing construction or you're like, if there's construction involved, that's
no. The only construction, like I said before, is we'll convert a formal living room. A formal dining room into a bedroom because you don't need that in a vacation rental space. Typically a formal dining room would only hold 6 to 7 people anyway, and our groups are 16 to 20, right? So, we set up tables outside. We set up tables in larger areas so that it can accommodate that. So we don't necessarily need that. So we'll just frame that up and make it a bedroom.
So you're really just designing them to be best for big groups.
Yeah, exactly.
And then what about like, are you doing paint, carpet, any of that?
If it needs it, obviously it has to be done, right?
Okay.
We try to negotiate.
But that's not something you're scared of?
No, not at all. And we try to negotiate that in the lease up front with the owner.
Or maybe 50-50 or something?
Yeah, 100%. Like if the rugs are completely wear out, we try to get them to pay for that or to do any like major repairs that it may have in the moment. The house has to check out to make sure everything's working when we take it over. So if the refrigerator's broken,
like a home inspection?
Yeah, we do our own internal. I was actually thinking about bringing a third-party company in, but we're pretty good at it. Our handymans and stuff, could pretty much figure out
get
if
a good
things are
handle on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're going to have to expect to replace those things. You're bringing in groups after groups after groups. So typically the appliances are going to take a little bit more hit than a single family resident, right? So you have to just kind of budget for that you're going to upgrade everything over time.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, if in all reality, if you're making 10 G's a month, you can buy a refrigerator every year.
Yeah, as long as you're not going to Vegas and buying sports cars,
not really affect your bottom line all that much.
Exactly.
Okay, so I want to shift gears now to like pricing the property and because I feel like that's kind of a science.
Yeah, that's a big science, and we created our own proprietary algorithm around that called Pricing Autopilot, which is really cool, and it's market-centric. So it's built in, the software is designed to literally build in the market. So in this particular market, it's flawless because it takes in all the events that are coming into town, takes all of your weekends, it configures all your amenities and how many beds you have, how many people it sleeps, who's the operator, literally grading the operator. If you have an experienced, host that has done, managed home after home after home after home, that rating is actually a factor in how well that house is going to perform, and that actually goes into the Pricing Autopilot.
Very interesting.
And so all that data is compiled into Pricing Autopilot by what the house actually is and what it has and what it doesn't have. So if it has a hot tub, you check that off, right? So it has to have all this in. At the end of it, it spits out a goal for the year broken up into months. And so each month we have a goal that we need to achieve. And then we mathematically have to go back and figure out how to break that goal up. So let me give you an example, Oliver, all right? Let's say our goal is $25,000 for the month of January, okay? So if that's our goal, we have 8 weekend days. Friday and Saturday. Okay. 80% of the revenue has to come from those 8 days. For the entire month.
So that's the bread and butter.
That's your bread and butter right there. Okay? The rest of the time is what the daily rate will be, which is typically calculated at 1% of the overall goal.
Okay.
So those days may be only $250 a day.
Okay.
In that scenario that we're talking about right now.
That's a good number,
yeah. So typically, if somebody wants to come and they want to stay over the period of 2 weekends, and you have to price that to make sure that you can get 50% of your goal within those 2 weekends. So if somebody comes in on a Friday and they leave on the following Monday, they're crossing over 2 Fridays and 2 Saturdays,
right,
which is 50% of your revenue. Yeah. 80%, 40% of your revenue. Right. 80% of the revenue is coming from the weekends.
Okay.
So you've got to make sure you understand how to price it accordingly. Pricing Autopilot does that automatically for you, and it puts it into your calendar exactly the way it's supposed to. And taking into account to very special events that come into the marketplace.
Because that's when you're getting more.
Oh my God, big money. Yeah.
Waste management comes into town.
$2,500 a night. You know,
okay.
You know, with waste management over just this last.
Yeah, I went. By the way, it was awesome.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
That 16th hole where everyone goes crazy is amazing.
I know.
Put that on your list if you haven't gone yet. So I like what you said there. 80% of the revenue is going to come on the weekend days. And then you said 1% of goal is what you can expect for a weeknight.
Yeah, in that scenario.
So that's a pretty big difference between a Monday through Thursday than a Friday, Saturday night.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what about how big of a swing are you seeing between high season and low season?
Oh, it's night and day.
Okay.
It's night and day. I mean, you have to understand your market.
Okay.
You know, here, June, it's hot. It's 116 degrees,
right,
you know?
Yeah.
July is brutal.
And so how much do those numbers go down then at that point?
Substantially. More than 50%.
So in this same example, January you're getting 25K,
yeah,
that's the goal.
You get 12.
You're getting 12, so it's about half.
Yeah, at least, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you have to be smart. You know, you need to book your calendar in advance.
No, I mean, that's good, just because I'm just trying to think of like how to calculate, how to prepare, and if you know the numbers are about 50% of what they are on the hot season versus slow season, that's it. Pretty good to at least be able to ballpark it.
People love coming out. Like I love doing events, like our boot camps out here in the summer.
Yeah.
We can get room rates for $99 at 4-star, 5-star hotels here in June.
Because no one wants to come out here.
Well, it's hot, you know. But if you're in the hotel, it's really cool,
right,
you know.
Right.
I've learned that from Jack Hanfield. You know, Jack does a lot of events. He's a real popular speaker, and he comes out. I think it's every August he comes out here. And you know, he saves a lot of money by doing that.
I'm sure.
You know, he brings big groups of people, and you know, you can save for the student is coming. They get a room rate, a nice hotel for $100 a night. And by the way, even when it's really hot like that, some people like that. By the way, not everybody does.
Yeah.
But when it's really, really hot, man, a pool, there's nothing better than a pool during that time. You know what I mean? You're just like, just want to be in the water, you know? So that's what people do.
I want to be in the AC or in the water.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Totally. Okay. And then what kind of tips would you have around pricing when you're analyzing, if you're trying to get into a deal?
So because of our unique software, I don't have to overthink it.
So is this something that you sell? Or
so we use it for ourselves, but we're actually ready to roll it out to everybody.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So we'll keep you guys posted on that. What about for the people that don't have that software? How would they approach it?
Yeah, they have to break out their goal. They still have to come up with a goal.
Okay.
You know, in their market. They've got to, look, if you're going to start a business, right? I don't care what business it is. Coaching business, you know, training business, mastermind business, you know. I don't care what it is. It really doesn't matter. A franchise. You really go into the business knowing what you want to make. Right?
Okay.
If I'm looking at a luxury house and I say, okay, I'm going to work this thing for a year, I want to make 60, 70 grand out of this thing. And if I can't make that, I'm not going to do the deal. So now I've got my goal. Okay. So I add that number of what I want to make to the rent that I got to pay and to the expenses that the house is going to come up with. I've got pool heat, I've got cable television, I've got electric, I got water, I got gas, maintenance, all that stuff, right? I'm going to add it all up. And I'm going to look at that number and I'm going to say, okay, here's the number. I got to do 200 grand in revenue on this property. I got to do 200 grand in revenue. I've got 12 months to break that out, and I'm going to break that out in 12 months. I know these 3 months are slower. They're going to be at 50%. That leaves me with this across the board. And if you're in an area that you're unaware of, get aware of the area. Don't you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to put a Baskin Robbins in, a very, very, very cold
in
Alaskan area. You know what I mean? Like you're going to look and say, hey, where am I going to put this ice cream shop that most customers are going to come in off the beach or something, be really, hungry for ice cream.
Right. Yeah. No,
So you got to be a little smart and proactive in business, and you got to kind of know a little bit about what you're doing in the area. You got to look for the hot attractions. Why are people flying there? What is it that they're there for? I met somebody here at the closing table, Valerie, who's awesome, just a great gal.
Great.
She's managing 50 Airbnbs, it's pretty impressive, and it's all in the Anaheim Disney area. I'm thinking that is amazing. That's brilliant, right? Totally. Now she's not doing luxury, she's doing smaller single family homes, but it's still great because she knows that the traffic is coming there.
Right.
How many millions of people come to Disneyland?
Oh my God.
It's insane, right?
And the cool thing about being near like a Disneyland is that it's year round.
It's year round, totally, especially there, in California or Florida, right?
Exactly.
Both those areas are really all year round areas. That's why they put those parks there in the first place. They knew that the weather was pretty decent.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I like that. How concerned are you with the anti-Airbnb short-term rental groups and initiatives?
Yeah, that's a good question. Obviously we're an advocate for what we do.
Yeah.
And I am ready to write that check anytime I can fight that. Either it be supporting a group that's in our favor, or going down to City Hall and being in the court, participating in the courthouse. So I am a big advocate of that. On the other side of it, I understand. Like I'm a conscious guy, and I know that there's issues, and I can see both sides of the coin. Totally. Some people in our country can't do that. You've got to be able to see both sides. For sure. Okay, in any relationship, even a husband and wife relationship, if you're not seeing both sides, you're in trouble. Your marriage is in trouble. So we have to go into it with an open heart, open mind, and fight our battles and explain our side. Take our stance on what we believe is true, right, and within reason. At the other side of the coin, I go over and above to make sure I mitigate any concerns of any neighbor. If there's an issue, I am the first one to knock on the door to let the neighbor know, hey, I'm sorry. I have that situation that came up yesterday.
It's good accountability.
With the garbage.
Okay.
So we had, TPC was here in town, and the house that I'm actually staying at, one of our properties, we had a big group in there last week. They seemed like a really decent group, but they left over 10 bags of garbage on the curb, and they were up late at night, and we just got a complaint from a neighbor through Airbnb about that situation. We respond immediately to Airbnb and let them know that here's what we've done to mitigate that. We apologize for it, and we are going to go ahead and knock on the door at the neighbors and let them know that we were unaware of all that, and here's what we're going to do in the future to prevent it. So we've got to take proactive, we're in this business. We want to protect our business, right? You want to protect your business. Of course. Yeah. So you do what you got to do. You humble yourself in that sense. You just don't ignore the issues.
Yeah.
Ignoring the issues is not the cool thing. So, of course, the other side of it is that when there's a lot of regulation and things move in and they change, you've got to navigate, just like anything. If a Costco opens up next to your little supply store, you got to be concerned, right? You're going to have to navigate that situation a little bit. But in our sense, we want to be proactive, but we want to stand for our rights, and then at the same time, just continue to work on the systems and the processes to make it better for the surrounding neighbors.
No, that's really great advice. I like a couple things that you said there. I really like the fact that you see both sides, right? Because like I've lived next to an Airbnb before, and it was super annoying. Like they're up till 3 a.m. They're partying every night, and it gets old. So like I see the neighbor thing, and that's really real. But I also like the fact that you're really conscious of that, and you're doing everything you can to almost be on the neighbor's side. Like, hey, I see you, I hear you.
100%.
I'm going to put the noise alert things in the backyard. I'm going to put cameras up to make sure the trash goes out. I'm going to be on top of it with you personally.
Correct.
Belly to belly if there's any issues.
Correct. So, here's my phone number. If you ever have a problem, call me directly. This is what you do with your neighbors.
That's
but at the same time, you're always going to have maybe a potential, just really radical neighbor that just doesn't want to see your side of it at all. And it's tough. And sometimes you have to deal with it. We have one of those. Out of all the properties, we have one neighbor that's really crazy. It's hard. We had to
So
serve them. We had to serve them with
define
legal
really
papers.
crazy. Like he's just
Crazy
complains about everything, blowing up your phone.
Yeah, and then hanging signs on facing the guest with profanity. Literally, just put a sign right up on the
Like
thing.
what did it say?
I don't want to repeat it because it's not probably appropriate right now, but just bad stuff.
Really
bad stuff. Like, do you know that the people in the house were doing this or doing that or left this or left that? Horrible situation.
Wow.
Horrible situation. But we served that person. We have one of the best STR lawyers here in town, and we've been able to write a letter right away and say, you got to stop this. This is affecting our business. We'll sue you.
That's
so
crazy.
you have that once in a blue moon.
Yeah.
It's not, and the same thing with the party thing. Like, even though it sounds like, you tell me that and it sounds like everybody's experiencing that, it's not typical.
Totally.
Not especially in the luxury side. I'm not saying on the smaller homes. The smaller homes, that market's a little bit more consolidated. The houses are a little closer together, where our houses have an acre, 2 acres of land, so we're a little kind of separated a little bit. That gives us an advantage.
That's another good point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
I
good
didn't think about
advantage
that.
for the luxury market.
Right.
When you're on top of each other, it's a little challenging. So, and you have to have rules. We have house rules. We post them around the house. I mean, no, you got to leave the backyard by 10 o'clock. In some houses, this area is closed.
Yeah.
You got to treat it like a business. It is a business.
And where are all those rules listed in the book? Or
Yeah,
is
we have
that
we have a manual when people come in that has all the rules, but they've also signed off on those rules.
Got it.
Through the software process as they come in, and we have them fill out a renter data form where we get their driver's license and
Okay.
all their information, and
Cool.
we verify that information. They also are electronically signing agreements that they're not going to do this and not do that, and if there is
Got
a
it.
problem with the house, that we're going to mediate that ourselves before we blast anybody on social media or do anything stupid like that. So we have all that protocol in place. We have a complete system. We're a really professional organization in the sense of making sure that we cross our T's and dot our I's with everything.
I like
Everything's
that.
processes,
That's great.
and systems. And if you can stay to that and stay true to those, you're going to be fine. You're going to be great. You're going to have a great business, a great life, and it's a vacation lifestyle. It's cool. I've always liked that. I always wanted the vacation lifestyle.
No, it's very cool. I'm really impressed by what you've been able to do with all that, man.
Thanks.
So what would you say is like the key to running a successful Airbnb from your perspective?
Yeah, I think knowing your numbers is really key. Like, just understanding your numbers, understanding the math. Make sure you don't take a cheap deal or discount your property too much just because you think you're not getting bookings. Like, know why you're not getting bookings if you're not getting bookings. It may not be the price at all. It may be the pictures. It may be the headline. It may be the body of copy. It may be the bed configuration.
Yeah.
First thing somebody goes and
Go ahead.
does is they look at the pictures.
Yeah,
Right?
I literally, you took the words right out of my mouth. I imagine it's a lot like listings where some agents will just go up and just throw the shittiest photos up.
Yeah.
And it's just like how do you expect
No.
this house to sell?
Not with the competition that's
Where
out
the
there.
other people
Yeah.
that are top producers are generally, they have professional photography, they're enhanced with lighting and After Effects, and they just look gorgeous. And those are,
it's the thing. I mean,
Yeah.
pictures, you can't spend enough money on pictures. A lot of people want to go cheap with pictures. I find that so wrong.
yeah,
You know?
and it's cheap and it's
Yeah.
upfront. It's a one-time expense.
It's a one-time. I mean, $1,700, $2,500 for really good photos on your property, your luxury property, is not abnormal. A lot of people try to save money and do it for $250 or $500. It's not the right model. You can, with that cost, you can get an aerial, you can get some footage as well, and you can create your own platform. We teach that, how to create your own listing engine, so that you don't have to always be dependent on just Airbnb and VRBO and the big boys.
Totally.
You can do your own marketing.
Totally.
Yeah, straight
I
away.
love that.
Save a lot of fees.
I love that because I do agree. I think the pictures are hugely important. Another thing I think is hugely important is testimonials, right?
Yeah, no,
or
reviews are everything.
Reviews,
Yeah,
yeah.
reviews are-
So,
yeah.
what do you have as far as tips for getting more reviews, getting better reviews?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be of service. It goes back to bringing back the charm, right? This industry was a cottage industry back in the 50s.
Yeah.
And people been
The bed and breakfast
Yeah,
type.
they've been room sharing for hundreds of years. I think room sharing's been, come in my cave, and like share my cave.
I got a bed
right?
for you.
Yeah, exactly. So I think home sharing and what we do has been around for a long time, but it's become a professional industry. Really, in the 50s, it started to organize. In 1985, the association, the Vacation Rental Association, was born.
Okay.
So it's not a very old industry, but we're moving more toward regulation and protocol. So we make sure that all our students go through a hospitality training. It's a 2-day full-on training to understand hospitality. Like if you were to go work in a hotel, they'd put you through so much training, right? If you were to work for McDonald's or buy a McDonald's, they'll teach you, you'll go to Burger U and learn how to flip burgers, know? So we want the highest trained operators, right? That's why we have an educational company bolted onto our holdings company in a sense, right? Because we want our students to be the best, right? And it's that personal communication. And here's the tip. Here's the $1 million tip, okay?
All right.
$1 million tip is that people that like you won't say something bad about you, no matter how bad their experience was. So let's say you come into my house and you like me because we've had a great conversation about booking my house. You want to do your next mastermind in my house, and I say, hey, here's how it is. This is what, here's the price. We make a deal, and I treat you well, and you treat me well. And all of a sudden we're, and I'm on, you have a question and I'm answering it and I'm on it, and you're not waiting 24 hours or 48 hours for me to get back to you. And you like me. Okay. You're in the house, refrigerator goes, right? This stuff happens all the time. Of course. Right? The refrigerator blows out, right? Beehive. Bees decided to settle that week that you're there with your mastermind, and everybody gets stung by a bee, right? You're pissed. Yeah. You're having your vacation is now being tainted by unknown issues that are just coming up, dishwasher breaks, whatever the situation is. And if we have this bond, you're not going to write something bad about me. Now I may have to give you something to make you feel better at the end of it. You may say, look, this broke, that broke, this broke. These were things that you should have fixed a long time ago. Yeah, I'm going to look at doing something special for you. Either what I like to do is unrestricted travel credits, so that when you come back, you get a discount when you come back, so I can get some repeat business. But in the case I've got to give you a gift card for $100 or take you out to dinner, hey guys, go out to dinner on me, come back in, that's okay. You could do those things, you know? These are the kind of things that you can make right and still get your 5-star review. Because the refrigerator is not your fault. Right. You know what I mean? A dishwasher, the bees habitat, are not your fault, But if there's maintenance issues that were just not taken care of because you've been a lousy operator, then your business will flourish. Your business will go down. It will not flourish.
That's a great
tip. It just won't. Your stars will be 3 stars, 4 stars.
So really just staying ahead of it, staying on top of it, and really
it's a business.
Communication with the guests.
We do that with our coaching clients. We have to do that with our mastermind clients, right? We have to nurture everybody, make sure everybody's feeling heard and getting what they paid for, and so forth and so on. It's different, right? That's great. It's the same thing in any business.
What about around the cleaning process and making sure you're turning over stuff fast and efficiently? Yeah, so your business is made up of vendors, right? We have cleaning crews, we have handymen, we have caretakers, we have landscapers, we have tree service, we have plumbers, these are pool guy, electrician, right? So your business is made up of a lot of different people. My number one rule is to take care of your people. Take care of your people so they take care of you. You've got to personally train them. You do. From an operator standpoint, I know what I want. When I come into a luxury home or if I rent a nice place, I personally want that to be immaculate. I want that to have the wow factor, right? So I am a little anal in that sense, but I take my cleaning crew and show them what I want. Because if you just leave it up to them, they may not know what you want and they think it's clean, and what clean is for you may not be clean for me. Right. And you want this house to represent every aspect of you. Yeah, and you want the highest standard. 100%, right? That's what these particular clients are looking for that come into town. Now, don't get me wrong, some of the golfers that come into town don't really give a shit about the house. They just want to play golf, they want to drink beer, they want to smoke cigars. Sit in the hot tub sit in the hot tub. Yeah, exactly. This is what they want to do, But some of our more sophisticated, wealthier, higher end clients that are coming over from Europe or around the country or whatever, they're going to expect this an experience. They want the Ritz-Carlton experience. Yeah, look, I mean, if you're spending $1,000 or $1,500 a night, you would want it too, right? Definitely.
So we've got to look at the little things. We've got to train our people, you know. Everybody has to be on the same page. So you have to put some energy into it. So that's like rule number one. Put energy into training your people. And then don't just undercut them with price. A lot of times people are trying to keep margins down so that profits are higher, right? Yeah. You don't want to skimp on certain things. And I just always feel like the cleaning crew is your eyes and ears of that place, totally. Right? They know everything that's going on. You know, they're the ones that are going to report what's wrong with the house. You need to know what's wrong with the house to fix the things that are wrong. Yep. So I got into one of our most elegant properties is only 3 miles from here. The one I was just telling you about, it next to the Royal Palm. It's a beautiful home. It's $3.6 million house across the street, a $3 million house over there, and ours is a $1.7 million house, right? So it's just it's like good company and around a really elegant community. So I go in and I'm staying there, you know, and our mastermind's coming up this weekend, and I'm preparing it. And I go in there and there's no place to put my luggage. Like I go into one of the bedrooms, you know, I have a bunch of people going to stay at the house. So I took a small bedroom off to the side for myself. I just, you know, it's got a bathroom and I'm just really happy about it. And I'm looking in here and I'm like, there's no place to put my luggage rack. There's no luggage rack and there's no dresser. There's a little dresser, but there's no big dresser to put my clothes on. I'm gonna be here for a whole week. Yeah. I'm like, I don't wanna work off the floor, you know? So immediately, you know, of course I get on the phone and I explain this to my team, like we've gotta have, you know, luggage racks in here, right? Then, you know, when people come in, you know, in large groups of people, they scuff the walls a lot with their luggage. You know, they're pulling their luggage in and out. Sometimes when a big group comes in, it fills up the whole garage floor of luggage because they got their golf bag, they've got their suitcase, they got their handbag, and all of a sudden you picture that, 16 of them.
A big pile of luggage.
That's a pile. It's like coming to an airport, you know, and you see all the baggage on the luggage thing. It's the same thing. So walls get nicked, doors get nicked. You've got to go in there and make sure that your cleaning crew knows how to touch that up, how to, you know, make that look good for the next person coming in. These are like just some critical, like little things that make the biggest difference. Totally. And then, of course, things will always fail over time. So I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, what's that noise? Like, what's that noise? And sure enough, the toilet was just running and the float came up and then it would drip down and then it was like, shh, shh. I was like, what the hell? So I woke up in the middle. So I take a picture, you know, I send it to the caretaker or the handyman, and let's get this thing taken care of. Like, you don't know what's wrong with the house until you stay in the house. Yeah. But it's important that you stay in your house. Like, anytime you get a vacation rental, figure living there for an entire week so you understand that house better.
That's good advice.
You have to do that.
Yeah.
And you have to know where all your emergency switches are, where the breaker box is, where the water valve is, where you can access the garage door, the remote controls to the TVs, right? You've got to have everything dialed in and understand that property, because when that customer calls you and they ask you a question, you want to have the answer. That's pretty important.
And what about making sure that they're at that high level standard that you were talking about? Is there a process?
Yeah, we have checklists that we have that, you know, the cleaning crews go through. We do a quarterly inspection on all the appliances and everything every quarter. It's a routine maintenance system that we have. It's all driven by our software, our proprietary rental manager software, which is really awesome because we built the software based on the ability to manage these properties. Like literally, because we knew we needed it, you know, because in any business, if you don't have a good software to manage your business, you're really in up shit's creek. If you're scaling it, you don't necessarily need all those things with one
or two.
Yeah. But if you start getting into multiple properties and you want to scale your business, you've got to have something that's going to communicate to the staff, right? And make sure that people are coming on routine maintenance. And you have somebody checking the checker, you know?
And another great tip I heard from another guy that I know that operates a few Airbnbs is he has a book for the guests and he has a book for the cleaners. Yeah. And in the book for the cleaners, he basically got every room exactly the way he wanted it to look. Yeah. Took a picture of every room. And now he says, I want every room to look like this when you leave. You know? And so now it's super consistent.
I think I'm going to pimp that idea.
Like
that's a fantastic
idea. It's a great idea. Right. So if someone moves a chair or whatever, it's like, no. Put the chair back over here. Yeah. Put the flower vase back on the table or whatever it was.
Really like that a lot.
And that way it's consistent and every single time they can.
Yeah, and it's consistent to the pictures.
Right.
You know, that you're presenting the house on Airbnb and VRBO and
So anyway, that's
awesome,
another good
Oliver.
one.
This is cool.
What about tips for check-in, check-out, and making that smooth and a good process and a good experience for people?
So, everybody wants an early check-in. You have to be firm. You can't do it.
What about, could you...
Let me elaborate on that.
I'll let you elaborate. I just want to ask one quick question. Would you do it if they paid more? Would you offer that
so there's
as an
a couple
upsell?
options.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'll give you the typical thing. Somebody wants to check in, their flight's getting in early. Remember, checkout's 10, check-in's 4. We have a very short window to make that a really great experience from the last group.
Right.
Depending how crazy the last group was, right?
Totally.
It, depends on how long it's going to take me to clean it. And I've got a bunch of them. So I've got cleaning schedules, that are going on, right? We have to turn and wash, in many cases, 16 to 20 beds, right? Think about the time it takes to wash. We wash all the sheets on site.
Yeah.
Now, we also have, additional extra sets of sheets. So we pull the ones off, put the new ones on, and we're washing them while we're cleaning the property. So we need that time. So the way that you communicate such things is you just don't tell your customers no. Customers don't like to hear no.
Yeah.
They want to have a better reason for no. So what we like to tell the customers is, look, we can't promise you anything that this house is going to be ready when you want to check in, but we'll let you know. We'll keep your number. We wrote the notes in the software, so we'll notify you if we can give you the codes earlier to get into the house earlier, okay? But we don't want to tell you that we can do that. We don't want to promise you that we can do that until we're absolutely sure we can.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we want to make sure that you're having the greatest day. That house is prepared for your experience. There's nothing more important to us that your experience for the week or for the 10 days you're there or the 3 days that you're there, that you're going to have the most awesome experience, and nothing will jeopardize that. We don't want to check you in early and things aren't right and not working and sheets aren't clean and things aren't done because we had to rush that process. So when we explain it that way, they understand it, and we're going to make every effort to make them a check-in if we can. Okay, now, if they're coming in real early in the morning, they're flying internationally, they have to buy the day before. It's that simple. If it's a decent booking and it's a, a $10, $12, $15,000 booking, I'll give them maybe half price for the day before, just so that they know that the house will be ready and ready to go when they walk in at 7 in the morning or 6 in the morning.
No, that's a great tip.
Through an international flight.
And I think that's fair.
Yeah, it's very fair if it's available.
Right.
But I'm not going to give them a Friday the day before. Like if they're coming in on a Sunday, I can't give them the Saturday.
Yeah.
I can't because why? I told you that before.
Because that's where you make your money.
That's where I make my money, right? So even if it's not booked, I can't sell it to them because if I sell them the Saturday, then I lose potentially the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday for somebody coming in on a long weekend.
Yeah.
They won't look at my property.
Makes sense.
If that day is taken. And that day is extremely valuable. So for them to buy the Saturday, they really have to buy the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Right. It makes a lot of sense because it sounds like there's a couple of factors, right? Like if they want to come in early and it's a Monday and you didn't have it booked anyways, you really probably don't care.
No, you're right. Exactly. So if it's a Monday, that's different, right? But what did I tell you before on the weekends? That's 80% of my revenue, right?
But if it's a Saturday, then all of a sudden that's a totally different story.
Exactly.
Makes sense. Makes total sense.
Totally.
And then do you have any sort of minimums, or is it like 3-night minimums?
Yeah, we typically like to do 4-night minimums.
Okay.
Sometimes 3-night minimums.
Okay.
If you're getting through your calendar, right? Let's say I got bookings that are kind of filled up for February, and in right toward the end of February they're not sold, and I get too close to that, right? If I'm 7 days out before a booking, I've got to reduce my fees by 50%.
Okay.
Because that's pretty much our rule of thumb is 50% reduction within 7 days.
And then that'll get them booked up.
Yeah, they're booked really fast. You just have to understand advanced bookings is your lifeblood in this business. You have to learn how to get advanced bookings. That's your bread and butter. You're getting full price for advanced bookings. People are blocking your calendar months in advance. We have bookings a year in advance.
Right.
We have bookings for TPC next year.
Wow, already.
Yeah, because people come back and they want to
They want the same house.
They love it.
Yeah.
It's a family thing. It's a when we used to travel when we were younger, I don't know how old you are.
I'm 39.
You're 39.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm 53, so I'm a little older than you. Maybe a lot older than. But when we were young, we used to go to like Nantucket, Cape Cod. My family loved it out there, and I was really young. You know, we went to the same place every year. It seemed like, you know what I mean? Like it was just like this family tradition. I don't know if those traditions are still around, but some people still want to come back.
Sure.
They have a great experience at the house, and they want to
got
come
memories
back next year.
there. Yeah,
exactly.
Cool.
That's how it works.
Love it. Trying to think here. So I know you have your own proprietary software, but outside of that, what would you say are your favorite tools, softwares, and apps for running an Airbnb business?
Sure. So we do use our own. So I'm not going to really endorse others anymore because there's no real reason to do it. But you know, the tips like the noise aware system is really cool.
Love that. And what's that called?
Noise aware.
Noise aware.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's actually the brand name. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a really cool device. You know.
Love that.
We also use AirDNA to do some research.
Okay.
We don't rely on it exclusively. We always
And
take that.
AirDNA, that's like
It's a data
pricing.
Pricing management.
Comps,
yeah,
stuff like
data.
that.
You know, locations, what kind of traffic's in the area. You know, all
Booking
of what's
percentages.
happening. Yeah, they're taking they're scraping all the data from Airbnb and all the processes there. Now they're also included VRBO. So now you're getting a better picture with their platform. So that's a helpful tool.
Cool.
There's a great platform called VRolio out there, which is a really cool platform.
VRolio?
VRolio, yeah. And VRolio is a platform where they have short-term rental buyers and people who want to sell their home. So it's kind of like a matchmaker where they're matching investors.
So that's perfect for people like you.
Perfect, yeah, exactly. So we have a very unique deal with them. We've formed a joint venture partnership where we can get an early look at some of the properties before the rest of the community gets a look. Right? We've got a special arrangement with the CEO, and she's terrific, and she's a wealth of knowledge in this space. So great company, great motives and intentions, to help bring investors together with short-term renter operators, who want to, do a deal, People who want to sell their home and people want to run a vacation rental business, it's like
match
perfect.
them up.
I like that
Matchmaking.
platform a lot.
Yeah, for sure. So Noise Aware, that's the app and system that protects you and the neighbors from your guests getting too loud. If they get too loud, it alerts you and you can proactively tell them to turn it down a little bit.
Yes.
And then there's AirDNA.
AirDNA for research,
which is
on
for
location
research and data
pricing and stuff
all
like
that.
Yep.
And then VRolio for finding properties.
Looking for properties.
That people want to sell that might fit this
And they
box.
have a lot of bells and whistles on that platform to look at regulations and areas. They color-coded it across the country. So if you're looking for a specific area and you want to know what the regulations look like, they're color-coded. You can dial in. Sometimes you have to verify that information as well because it's feeded in, right? And things change, right? So, but it's awesome. It's a great tool, to use. And of course, Rental Manager is our proprietary software. We're ready to roll that out to the general population soon.
So we'll have to check that out once it comes out.
That's going to be cool. People are going to love it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
No, that's great. I love those tips. And then this is one that I kind of always like to end with, and that's what's one thing that you wish you would have known when you started that you know now that would have made everything a lot easier?
Yeah, that's great. I didn't know the complexity of this business. Like the one thing that I didn't know is how many skill sets you need to have to be an effective operator.
Okay.
At first I thought anybody can do this business. And then I realized if you didn't have the personality to deal with challenging people at times, like you have to be able to keep your cool. When a customer's yelling at you and screaming at you, you got to be able to keep your cool, right? That's a skill set.
That's definitely a skill set.
Right? Some people fly off the handle, That doesn't make a good operator. The other thing that I didn't realize is that you need to know a little bit about software. And you do need to know how to run some of these platforms and communicate via both email and communications is really an important part to this business.
And quick, I'm guessing as
quick.
well.
Yeah, your response time in this business is everything. In fact, Airbnb's and VRBO is grading you on your response time. So if you don't respond quickly, your rating as an operator goes down, and that's not good. That affects your bottom line business. In addition to that, you have to have a little common sense around a property. Like you have to understand and know what a pool heater is. You got to know what what thermostat is. You got to know what a water heater is, a fuse box. You got to understand that how to communicate to vendors like plumbers and electricians and stuff like that. So you need a little bit about that. I didn't really know you needed so much of that until I kind of dove in and got into it. I'm like, wow, you have to have a lot of skill sets. I'm fortunate that I have all of what it takes to do this, you know, and I'm not even really hosting. I have a team that does it.
Right.
But, you know, you need certain skill sets to do this business. It's not for everyone. I will be honest with you. Just like running a Massage Envy may not be for everyone, or running a Baskin Robbins.
Totally. So what makes it right for someone?
What makes it right is if you like people,
okay,
and you like to provide great experiences for people, right? If you have a lot of joy because somebody else is joyful, like if you have that in you, like you know, typical coaches, you know, coaches love people. You ever have a life coach, business coach, right?
Business coach,
yeah, business coach, and sometimes life coaches or spiritual coaches,
Right.
There's every coach under the sun in these days, right? But coaches are heart-centered people that care about the experiences in life of another person, and I think that's the core skill set you need in this business. You've got to like people and really want them to have a good time. That's what this business is about. It's a vacation rental business. You want them to have a good time.
I love that.
So that's really important. You know, if you don't have that, I don't know if it's right for you. Okay.
So that's the one.
Yeah. The other one is just knowing that running a business is going to take time. There's a learning curve, and just really understanding you have to have multiple skills. And if you don't have these skills, you got to find them. So I'm a big, advocate of learning something.
Yep.
It may take you a little longer. I hate to give up on people too soon, but there's times where I feel like this isn't ever going to work with this operator. Like they just don't have all the pieces, and they're not there yet with all these, attributes that you need to run a successful vacation rental business,
Yeah.
And so
At the end of the day, you're in the hospitality business.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why we'd send them to a 2-day hospitality thing.
Yeah.
So they know how to meet
So if you're a
greet
person
people.
that doesn't like people and doesn't like customer service, and
not your business.
it's
You'll get
not going to be a good fit.
You'll get in it because you see the vision to make some really good money in a very short period of time. Like, some of our operators can make a quick 10 grand in the first couple months. I mean, that's a pretty cool business, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, right? So, you may see that up front, but then not realize how much work there is on the back of it. And you may be surprised to realize that, hey, this may not be right for you. I was actually thinking of developing a quiz that, pre-profiles them. So
is
that they
this
can
right for you?
Yeah, is this right for you? Because you can know that you have the right personality for this type of business.
Great.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, it's
Let
cool.
us know if you come up with that.
Yes.
We'll post a link to it.
There you go.
But
Perfect.
Man, great conversation.
Awesome.
Really
Oliver, thank you
appreciate
so much,
all the
man.
insight, man. It's
Really
been
appreciate
really
being here.
insightful. A lot
Thank
of
you.
great tips on running an Airbnb. If you guys have any other questions, leave a comment down below. Subscribe to the show. We also have a free Facebook group. It's called Real Closers. If you want to get on there, we do a lot of these interviews. We make them very interactive, and we hope to see you on the next one.
Awesome.
Thanks again, Jerry.
Cheers,
really
man.
appreciate it, man.
You bet. Thank you.